Hi again then guys, and welcome to another Special Projects Replica build. And this particular replica, like a couple of the others that we've done, is a movie car replica. But not only is this a movie car replica, it's actually just a replica of another vehicle in general as well. Because the version used in the movie, as far as I'm aware, is the same as the production version of the car anyway. And the vehicle in question is John Wick's Mustang from John Wick and John Wick 2, two movies which I really like. If you haven't seen them, you should. And this particular vehicle is, of course, the Mustang Boss 429. That's his car in both films, or for the majority of both films anyway. And as I said, as far as I know, he's basically just using a standard 429 Boss Mustang. Now, the Mustang which we have on the game, the Mach 1, is of course not a 429. It's significantly smaller and less powerful than that. So, we have made some visual changes, but we don't really need to go to the visual tuning garage to cover them because they're very simple. As you can see, I have fitted the small special rear wing, because his Mustang does have a rear wing. Unfortunately, we can't paint that wing. You don't really want it to be a bright colour, but there's nothing we can do about that. And as far as the car colour, his car is a dark metallic grey. And of course, there are a lot of greys to work with. So if you want to change it, that's absolutely fine, of course. But the grey that I've gone for in particular is a metallic grey, and it's called X-Power Grey, which actually comes from the MGTF. It's probably my most used grey when I do use greys. So that's what I've opted for. You don't have to though, of course. As I said, there are a number of greys to work with, and that's it for the visuals. That's all you need to do. So, of course, we will now cover the mechanical side of things for the replica of the car, and then, as we always do, take it out to a racetrack. Now, this tune is, of course, primarily designed to be accurate to the real Mustang 429 and also fun. It's not designed for racing. So if you want to use it for racing, you can, of course, but just don't expect greatness from it because it's not designed for that. Now, I've gone for comfort softs, or rather left the car on comfort softs. It comes with those, and the reason why is because you have the white lettering on the tyres, and also it feels more authentic. Now, as far as suspension and brakes, again, I've actually left those stock. And although sometimes we do leave the brakes stock, I usually do tune the suspension. The reason why I haven't, though, is again to make the car feel like an authentic, kind of wallowy, soft suspension-ish kind of road car, which you'd expect the car to handle like. And you just don't really need to change the suspension to achieve that. You can if you want to, but I wouldn't necessarily say you need to. Likewise for the diff, clutch, flywheel and prop shaft, I've left all of those stock for the exact same reason. Again, you could change them if you want to, but it's not entirely necessary. As far as power though, you do of course want to change that up. I would recommend an oil change. Then what I've opted to do is slightly different to what you necessarily need to do, because you can get the specs of the car without fitting all of the parts that I have, because as you can see, we've gone for the stage 1 engine tune, sports computer, manifold, cat and the intake tuning, but then we've reduced the power quite significantly. You don't need to do all that. If you want it to just be a replica and you don't care about the PP level being 480, say you're happy with maybe 474 I think it is, or 476, then you can fit less and have the power limiter higher. This specific method is more for if you want the car to be rounded off to 480 as well. So it depends what you want. Now, incidentally, we are running the real power of the car, 375 horsepower, but also we're actually running a very similar amount of torque. A little bit more, in fact. The real car apparently has 67.5. This car has 69. So it's close. A little bit more, but pretty close. And as far as the weight, I would recommend adding 140 kilos of ballast, which brings you up to the actual weight of the real 429, which is, as you can see, 1755 kilos. I've left that in the middle, and I've got the downforce as low as possible on that rear wing. And finally, for the gearbox, we are running the real ratios, but with a bit of a caveat, because the real car has a 4-speed gearbox, whereas the race gearbox is a 5-speed. So obviously you can either choose to use the 5th, or in my case, I opted to use a manual gearbox so that it doesn't use 5th. So again, it depends what you want to do. So I would recommend an auto setting of 174 then the real ratios of the car are 2.32, 1.69, 1.29 and 1. Then of course fifth gear doesn't matter, so you can do whatever you want with that. And then the final drive is 3.91. So pretty simple as far as the setup overall. It is one of the simpler tunes which we've done, and not only do you have a replica of John Wick's Mustang, but also just the Mustang Boss 429 in general. So all that remains now is of course to take it out to a circuit. Overall then, as I said, it's a car which is primarily designed with two purposes in mind. One is of course to be accurate to the real Mustang Boss 429, and kind of secondly to that is to replicate John Wick's Mustang, and I guess you could kind of say the third thing is to be fun, but the first two are kind of linked together. But overall it is very fun to drive if you either decide to use the full 5-speed or just stick to 4 with a manual gearbox. Either way, you can have a lot of fun with the car, and although it's certainly not the quickest of muscle cars, especially in its current tune, it's a lot of fun. You can get the tail out just like he does in the film, the suspension feels suitably soft and kind of playful, and as far as the visuals go, considering it's not the correct Mustang that you're working with, it doesn't look that far off. So overall, if you do decide to use this build, obviously I hope you find it fun and potentially useful in racing as well if you do decide to use it for that. But that's it for this build overall. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.